All right, let's move on to the 3-1 Miami Dolphins taking on the 2-2 New York Jets. The main storyline coming out of this game is the fact that Tua has already been ruled out with a concussion. So let me turn it over to you, bro. I know it's your team, you're the Dolphins. How do you feel about Teddy Bridgewater? How confident are you guys can go up there and beat the Jets?
I mean, I think Teddy's going to be all right. I mean, we saw that he was serviceable in relief on Thursday Night Football against the Cincinnati Bengals. He was pushing the ball down the field some. There was a backbreaking interception. I mean, that team was still in it up until that point, but that was miscommunication. He wasn't running with the ones a whole lot, and Gasecki ran the wrong route. Otherwise, I think if they're on the same page, Gasecki makes that. They move the chains. But also, if Tua didn't get hurt, I think the Dolphins win that
Yep.
game outright against the Cincinnati Bengals. And I'm just happy the team's actually able to go up to MetLife in the Meadowlands, because of everybody that got their PhDs on Thursday night from the Harvard School of
Uh-huh.
Twitter medicine. Basically calling for malpractice and people going to jail and if Tua dies on the field, it's on that. It's like, okay, let's pump the brakes. But long story short, sticking with this game real quick, I think the Dolphins win this game. I don't quite understand how the line is at -3, in my opinion. I think this should be Dolphins -1. No disrespect to Teddy, two gloves, Bridgewater, but the Jets, they should have lost that game against the Steelers. That defense was getting picked apart in the end of the first half, and then the second half of football. Kenny Pickett was moving the ball effectively, but Kenny Pickett being a rookie had 3 turnovers, and Zach Wilson looked good. There were a couple of throws that made you scratch your head and wonder what are you doing, but I think the Dolphins win this game. It's at a 46 total. I feel like this has a chance of going over just because, yeah, the Dolphins' front four, front seven are decent, but that secondary is not good. Byron Jones is still on IR. They were potentially hoping to activate him off of IR today, and they have the 21-day window, but he's not progressing like they expected him to in his recovery. Xavier Howard, he left the Bengals game with a quad injury. He was going into that game dinged up anyways. And, there's a couple of rookies in the secondary. So I think this has a chance of going over, but I think Teddy Two Gloves Bridgewater is going to do enough to keep the team in the game. And I think the Dolphins win. I have the Dolphins at -3. I'm not like the most entirely, confident in that bet, but, I have the Dolphins laying the 3 points right here.
Yeah, man, I got the Jets winning, and I just simply I was impressed with Zach Wilson. I liked what I saw out of him. Yeah, at the end of the day, he had 2 interceptions, and for the most part, that really kind of made his stat line look much worse than it really was. But I wanted to see how he would look. Game one. Of his second year, obviously he had the first 3 weeks off because of his knee injury, but I was impressed with what I saw out of him. I know last year he was very herky jerky. He was very unsure of his reads, of getting the ball out quickly. He would hold on to it too long. He was trying to run around and do that whole bullshit of trying to make a bigger play than what was there. I think what I saw out of the Pittsburgh game, and give it this one sample size, I want to see how he performs this week against the Miami Dolphins. I was impressed with how quickly and efficiently he had the offense moving and how quickly the ball came out of his hands. So I liked what I saw of Zach Wilson. Hopefully he can grow off of that. And hopefully the Jets can win against the Dolphins. And for me personally, I just have no faith in Teddy Bridgewater. I'm sorry. He's one, me, I have this extreme hatred for backup quarterbacks that hang around for 10 years are absolute trash, move from team to team, whether it's Teddy Bridgewater, Tyrod Taylor, Brian Hoyer, whoever it is. The second you need them to jump in and actually perform, they crap the bed. And Teddy Bridgewater did that the other night against the Dolphins, against the Bengals, where he threw that interception. Yeah, we can blame it on the wide receiver falling down, but at the end of the day, it is what it is, and that's what cost him the game. You guys were driving to win the game. So the one question I want to ask you real quick is, obviously you follow up on the Dolphins quite a bit. What's the early speculation of how long Tua's going to be out, and how much of the playbook can Teddy Bridgewater run? Is it going to be a complete hey, whatever Tua ran, Teddy can run as well kind of thing, or is it going to be dialed back a little bit?
I think Tua's going to be able to run not Tua. Teddy's going to be able to run the same playbook that Tua has been running. I mean, we saw that on Thursday night to an extent, and I think Mike McDaniel's going to have enough faith in the veteran presence of Teddy to do this. Maybe they lean a little bit more on the run, but the Jets are okay at run defense. So, and they haven't been able to establish the run a whole lot this season in the first place. But I think they'll be able to have the playbook open, for Teddy as they were doing with Tua. Timeline for Tua. Personally, I expect him to be back next week.
Oh wow.
But it depends. I mean, it's all going to be coming down the protocol and whether or not the NFLPA and the NFL decide to change up the protocol, whether or not he's going to be affected by that. I mean, at this point, we're 10 days removed already from it. So what's another week? So now we're
17.
at 17 days or
Yeah.
so. So yeah, it's not a linear injury. There's always post concussive symptoms. I mean, you can look at anybody in Major League Baseball, specifically Jim Edmonds. I mean, he got concussions all the time by running into the outfield wall, and that's why his career got cut short. There's always post concussion syndromes. It's going to come down to whether or not he clears those hurdles. But every report that's been coming out has been trending on the positive side, and he's had good in air quote clean MRIs ever since he's gotten back from the Bengals game. And I mean, Jay, they cleared him to fly fly on the airplane. Like typically, if you have a concussion, you don't fly the next day or you don't fly that night because it could potentially with a brain bleed at altitude in a pressurized cabin, you could potentially die from that. So I don't think there's a big scheme of malpractice going from the Dolphins medical staff all the way to the University of Cincinnati hospital that's the only level 1 trauma center out there. So I personally expect him to be back next week, but again, it's all going to come down to the optics of what's been going on recently and whatnot. And I don't think Mike McDaniels is going to rush it either. But that's kind of where I'm reading the tea leaves.
Yeah, and it looks